Illinois Department of Natural Resources presents Hey, IDNR, how do I...
Today I'm going to show you how to make a plaster cast of a track that I found. Now this is a good track. It's a nice deep impression. It's a white-tailed deer print. And it's in a little bit of soft dirt, but it's dried out just a little bit. So it's not very fresh, but it made a nice impression. So we're going to see if we can throw some plaster in it and make a nice impression of it ourselves. Also works out very handy. I'm right by a creek. I have my water supply. Very handy. When I go out and I do this, I take a little kit with me. I've got a bag, and in it, I take several bags of plaster with me, and I always pre-measure the plaster in the bag. This is about 1 cup. For this particular print, this is probably going to be too much. I may dump a little bit out, but anyway, always have a pre-measured amount with you so you know what you're starting with. Also, with your water, 2 things that you can do. You can always bring a plastic cup with you. This one is just about 10 ounces, which means if I fill it right to there, that's about a cup of water, and that works fairly well. Or if you want to cheat, no problem with that. I have a 1 cup measuring cup. So I'm going to go get my water. I'm going to start pouring it into my bag of plaster. I'm basically just going to mix this up inside the bag. Once I get the right consistency, I'm going to fill the track. With my kit, sometimes I also bring sticks. Believe it or not, even sometimes when you're in the woods, it's hard to find the perfect stick. So I have some of the craft sticks. And if you need to, you can build a little ridge around the track. But in this particular instance, this one is going a little bit downhill. It has areas all around it that will allow me to make a nice impression of it. And I don't really need to build a little reservoir around it. But if you do need to do that, just pile up a little dirt around the outside, and that should take care of any need that you have to have your border. So let's go get some water and let's give this a try. So now I've got about a cup of water. I got a bag with about a cup of dry plaster of Paris in it. I may need to get more water. We'll see once we get this in there and get it mixed up. Several different instructions I've found when finding out how to do this myself as far as how to mix your plaster. The main thing seems to be take your time. So we're going to add a little bit of water, just kind of let it soak in. Let the plaster start to settle. Let it filter down through everything. And then we're going to close the bag and we're going to start to mix. The nice part about doing this just get it good and mixed up. Now this is a little bit thinner than I want it to be, which is okay because we have more plaster. Like I say, back and forth a little bit. Sometimes you're going to need to add a little bit more plaster. Sometimes you're going to have to add a little bit more water. Some plasters are 2 cups of water to 1 cup plaster. Some are 1 to 1. And this one seems to be a little bit less, which is not a problem because we are prepared. There's some more plaster. This plaster on the instructions said you wanted to get it to about the consistency of thick whipped cream. And I don't mind mixing it a little bit thin. And really, you want it just a little bit on the thin side because if you get it too thick, sometimes your impression isn't going to fill up that well. And you want this is getting pretty close. Let's add just a little bit more plaster. You want to get everything, your impression filled up nicely. So you don't want to have your plaster too awful thick because then you can have air pockets and such. And it might not work out just the way you want it to. So this ought to about do it with dry plaster everywhere. We'll give this one last mix. Yeah, that's better. Massage it a bit. There, it's getting right where I want it. Now today is a beautiful day. It's dry, the sun is shining, there's a little bit of a breeze, and it's not real humid, so that's going to make it pretty good for this plaster to dry, I think. We should have things drying rather quickly, about 15 or 20 minutes or so, and we should be about where we're supposed to be. And we should have a nice impression of a white-tailed deer track. Sometimes when I do this, I like to slit the bottom and just kind of squirt the plaster in there. But because I have so much I'm going to have extra, I want to be able to close this bag just to not have it make a big mess. Yeah, we're right where we want to be. Now with this track, I found a good one, and I kind of cleaned all the stuff out of it. There was some grass in there that I didn't want, and there was a few rolls of dirt in there that I didn't want. But this one, and you'll be able to see when I pull this out, has really nice deep toe impressions, which makes this a really nice one to try. So let's fill it up. Okay. Now that, I'm gonna take my stick, kind of shake things down a little bit. Yeah, that plaster's just about perfect. It might be just a tad thick, but it looks like it's settling in there quite nicely. Okay, now we're going to give this about 20 minutes or so, and we'll come back, take a look at it. During that time, if you would like, you can put a little paper clip in the back for a hanger, or you can write down what species it is, scratch it in there when the plaster is set a little bit, or you can just come back, dig it out. All right, I went for a little bit of a walk, gave this time to set up, cleaned up my mess, and now we're going to dig this out and see what happens. I like to try to use a stick to kind of loosen the soil around the imprint that you've made. It will help it come out just a little bit easier. It's going to be dirty, it's going to have stuff on it, but you can take it home and you can clean it up a little bit better. But the main thing is to get a good impression. That's why it's nice to use with a little bit of loose soil. It helps things quite a bit, especially when you have to take the imprint out. Oh yeah, that turned out really nice. You can see the toes on this very well from the deer print. Let that dirt that's on there dry, take that home, work that off, and you have a fantastic imprint of a track that you made out in the wild.